everyone. I'm gonna see if I can pin my contact info. In the meantime, while I wait to see if anyone hops on, I hope everyone is having a good week so far. Immigration, as we know, has been a roller coaster ride over the past the past 4 years. It's been a roller coaster ride and a half. And we're starting to finally see some light at the end of the tunnel for immigrants. So I'm really excited about that. Hello, thank you guys so much for joining. If you have any questions, you can throw them in the question box. I'm not sure how to really get it to work. So if you have questions, drop them in there. If that doesn't work, feel free to drop the questions that you have in the comments to my video. Hey, although it says DACA and TPS, any immigration questions that you have at all, feel free to ask them. I've just been getting a ton of questions on DACA and TPS this week, so I wanted to make that the focus. But if you have any questions about immigration whatsoever, any questions at all, feel free to ask. I'm totally open to answering them. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, my name is Bianca Jordan. I'm an immigration attorney. My office is in Massachusetts. I have a law firm called Brazen Legal. And for the past 6 years in my business, I have been helping immigrants get legal status here. So that has been everything from getting people asylum, green cards, U.S. citizenship, representing people in removal proceedings, special immigrant juvenile status, lots of different immigration benefits. I have been working in immigration for the past 10 years, had my own law firm for the past 6 years, and I'm really just here to serve and help you guys out. I have a YouTube channel where I post videos weekly, and I try to also post videos on Instagram as well. And lately I've been having some fun with TikTok and Instagram Reels. So I've been experimenting with that as well. Today, like I said, is mostly probably assuming, people have a lot of questions about DACA and TPS. So I'm going to focus on that. But again, if you have any other questions that are immigration related, or even if you have questions about me, let me know. I wanted to start answering your questions live rather than answering them the way I was in my Instagram stories. And that way we're able to get to know each other a little bit better as well. Hey, Nadej. Okay, so I have a question already. So let's see. Can you leave the country with advanced parole with TPS for El Salvador, or is that not possible anymore? So yes, you can. So the Trump administration tried to get rid of this. And just for the benefit of people who might not know, I just want to take a step back and go through TPS a little bit. So just for the benefit of people who might be new to TPS, TPS stands for Temporary Protected Status, and it is an immigration benefit that has been around since 1990, and it is for immigrants who temporarily cannot go back to their home country because of something like a pandemic, a health crisis like Ebola, for example, a civil war, a natural disaster. For example, Haitians have TPS because of the earthquake that happened in January of 2010. So there are a variety of reasons why people temporarily cannot go back to their home country. So the United States gives them temporary protected status. And currently we have 10 countries that have temporary protected status. And one of the benefits of TPS is that while you have TPS status, you cannot be deported. You cannot be placed in deportation proceedings or detained based on your immigration status. You get work authorization, which typically would be for 18 months at a time, because that is the maximum amount of time that the government can renew your temporary protected status. And you're also able to get work authorization, and then you'll also be able to get something called advanced parole. Advanced parole is a very useful tool for people who came to the country undocumented before they got TPS and also DACA, which I'll talk about later. And so for people that came to the country undocumented who are now married to a US citizen, or maybe they have a son or daughter who's a US citizen who is over the age of 21, under normal circumstances, that person would be able to adjust their status, which means that they would be getting their green card in the United States without leaving. And so this has been a very important tool that a lot of people have used when they have TPS. They get advanced parole, they travel briefly out of the United States, and when they come back on advanced parole, that acts as a lawful entry that now enables them to adjust their status and get the green card here. So that is something that the Trump administration has been trying to get rid of as it relates to temporary protected status. Earlier this summer, I think in August 20th, 2020, the Trump administration said that if you're traveling on advanced parole after August 20th of 2020, then that no longer will count as a lawful entry. You can still travel on advanced parole if you have TPS, but if you're traveling after August 20th, 2020, then they're just going to treat you like you're coming back in the same status. So for example, if you came to the United States undocumented, and then you got TPS, and you never applied for advanced parole until now. Let's say you finally got your advanced parole approved today, and you're planning on going back to El Salvador for Christmas, and you also want to use that as a lawful entry to get you back in the US so that you can get a green card through your US citizen spouse. Because of this court ruling in August, that's not going to happen anymore. You can still travel on advanced parole, but you're not going to be able to use that as a lawful entry. So that's a long-winded way of answering your question, Lens of My Heart, which is basically, yes, you can leave the country on advanced parole. You can still apply for advanced parole, but when you're coming back, they're not going to treat that as a lawful entry. But that only applies to people that have TPS. So if you have DACA and you have advanced parole and you're traveling on advanced parole, as of right now, when you come back, that's fine. They'll treat that as a lawful entry. Let's see, what other questions do you guys have? With the pandemic, are foreign medical doctors favored? What do you mean by favored? So in a way, kind of, because we have an executive order right now that is preventing certain people from getting green cards. And some of those people are employers. So there are certain employers who can't petition for employees to get green cards or for work authorization, like an H-1B visa. But the exception to this executive order is if they are coming, if they're medical workers, if they're nurses, or if they're doctors, and they're coming to the United States to help with COVID. So in a way, they are kind of favored right now, but it still doesn't guarantee that they'd be able to get legal status. And I also have a list of questions that people have been shooting me in my DMs. So I definitely want to make sure that I'm answering those in case those people aren't on the live right now and they want to catch the replay. So one of the questions was, can I give a background on TPS, which I just did. And I mentioned that 10 countries currently have TPS. Those 10 countries are El Salvador, Haiti, Honduras, Nepal, Nicaragua, Somalia, South Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. One of the questions I got was, is there TPS for Venezuelans? And there's not at this time, but there are a lot of lawyers who are working on trying to see if they can get the Biden administration to maybe recognize what's going on in Venezuela and to possibly try to push for TPS for Venezuela. But at the moment, there's not. Another question I got, which actually is a very common question, but this person said, I'm Honduran. If TPS is termed, can I apply for DACA? And this is a very popular question that I've gotten all week. I've had so many people asking me, I have TPS, can I get DACA? Can I switch from TPS to DACA? Because as we know, DACA, and I'll give a little bit of a background on that as well, for the benefit of those who don't know, DACA stands for Deferred Action of Childhood Arrivals. And it is an immigration benefit created by President Obama to help immigrants who came to the country undocumented as children or who came to the country with legal authorization, whether it was a visitor's visa or something, and then they fell out of status. So DACA enables those people to be able to get status. So for periods of 2 years, you have DACA, you can work, you can go to school, you can use advanced parole to travel back and forth in the United States. So a lot of people have been asking, can they switch from TPS, which is typically 18 months, but right now with the new extension for certain countries, it ends on October 4th, 2021, whereas DACA will end in 2 years for people. And the short answer is no, you cannot go from TPS to DACA. And the reason being, and I'll actually just quote straight from USCIS on this one, you can only request consideration of DACA under this process if you currently have no immigration status and were not in any lawful status on June 15th, 2012. So I've been getting a lot of questions from people that have TPS for Haiti that are asking me if they can get DACA, and they can't because they had TPS as of June 15th of 2012, because TPS for Haiti started in January of 2012. So if you had TPS at that time, then you do not qualify for DACA. Even if you meet the other requirements for DACA, which are that you came to the country before 2007. So you've been here since at least 2007. You came to the US before you turned 16. You had no status on June 15th, 2012. You don't have any felony convictions. You have either graduated from high school or got your GED, or you were honorably discharged from the Coast Guard or the Army. Even if you meet those requirements, if you had a status on June 15th, 2012, then you cannot apply for DACA. And that includes if you had a visitor's visa that hadn't expired yet. It includes if you had TPS. And also, TPS has more protections than DACA. I know it doesn't really seem that way because DACA technically goes longer than TPS does, because right now TPS for a lot of countries ends in October, whereas DACA is for another 2 years depending on when you're applying. But TPS is actually part of our immigration law, whereas DACA is not part of our immigration law. DACA is just an executive order which can go away with a swipe of a pen, as we saw Trump try to do. And if Biden wanted to, he could get rid of DACA as well. Probably won't, but DACA is just an executive order, so it doesn't really have a lot of protections. Whereas TPS, a president can't just get rid of TPS if they want to. It would have to go through Congress because it's part of our laws. So I know it seems a little unfair and people want to switch from TPS to DACA, but in addition to the fact that you can't, it's actually better to keep TPS than DACA. But we do know that the Biden administration does want to do something to kind of create some pathway to U.S. citizenship for people that have TPS or DACA. Don't really know what that will entail yet. It could be a situation where, this administration allows people with TPS or DACA to have like some type of temporary green card, and then in a year or two they can apply for like a 10-year one. Not really sure what that will look like. A lot of people are thinking that Biden will do something like Reagan's amnesty. And for those who don't know, Reagan's amnesty wasn't exactly like, if you're here, here's a green card. It was only open to people that didn't have any criminal histories and things like that. So maybe something like that will happen too. But if you currently have TPS, you cannot switch to DACA, and it's actually better if you keep your TPS because it's a little bit more secure than DACA is. Next question. If you've been a legal resident for over 50 years with a sealed felony, can you still sponsor yourself to be a U.S. citizen? I'm not really sure what you mean by that. Can you elaborate a little bit more on your question? And it also depends on what the felony is, because just because you seal your record doesn't mean that it doesn't exist anymore. So if you have a conviction for an aggravated felony or a drug charge, let's say you are convicted of possession of like 31 grams of marijuana, but you have that record sealed, that is still a ground of inadmissibility for you, which means that you won't be able to get a green card, and then you won't be able to apply for citizenship. And that is something that is not waivable, meaning that you cannot apply for a waiver of inadmissibility to kind of erase that charge to then allow you to get a green card or apply for citizenship. And if you are permanently barred from becoming a U.S. citizen, then you're also permanently barred from ever getting a green card as well. So if you have a felony conviction, I would definitely speak with an immigration attorney before you try to apply for anything, especially citizenship if you already have a green card. Let's see. Next question. If you don't have a legal form of entry under TPS for El Salvador, but are married to a U.S. citizen, is it not possible, the question, to get a green card at this point? So basically, if you came to the country undocumented and you never traveled on advanced parole and you are married to a U.S. citizen, you can still get a green card, but you're not going to be able to get a green card here. You're going to have to go back to your home country. So the way the process would work is your spouse files the I-130, and once that's approved, then it's going to get sent to the National Visa Center, and the National Visa Center is going to send you a welcome letter with a list of documentation that they need you to send to them. You're going to fill out the DS-260, which is kind of the consular processing version of filing the green card application here, and then you're going to do your affidavit of support and all that documentation. Once that's all set, you're going to be given an interview at your home country's embassy, and you'll have to do a medical form as well. And assuming all goes well at the embassy interview, they'll give you your immigrant visa, which is basically your green card, and you come back to the US and you get your green card here. But if you never came, if you have been in the country undocumented for over a year, then speak with an immigration attorney before you apply for anything, because even if the I-130 is approved and then you go and do your embassy interview, even if they approve the immigrant visa, when you try to come back to the US, they won't let you in if they can see that you have been in the country undocumented for more than a year. So before you even do anything, speak with an immigration attorney first, because if you're going to need an admissibility waiver because you overstayed a visa or you entered the US undocumented, that takes a really long time to get. I think the wait time is like a year right now. And so the process for that would be you apply for the I-130, and then once the I-130 is approved, then you file the waiver. And then once the waiver application is approved, and usually you'll tell the embassy that you're in the process of applying for the waiver. And once the waiver is approved, then they'll schedule you for your consular interview. And that way you can go to your interview and not have a fear of not being able to come back to the US because you have that waiver. Let's see. Hold on, let me see this question. I submitted 485 letters. Came from National Benefit Center. I tried for the processing times in Boston. I'm not really sure what your question is. So if you could just rephrase that so that I can answer that a little bit better. Let me see what other questions I had in my DMs, because I copied as many as I could. Another question I got was, will folks have to pay during the re-registration process for TPS? So again, the countries that the announcement was made this week, the countries who are getting their extension are Haiti, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Sudan, and Nepal, and Honduras. So if you're from one of those countries and you already have TPS and you re-registered for your TPS at the last time, which I think for most of these countries was 2017, then you don't have to re-register for TPS, and you don't have to apply for a new work card unless you want one that has the new date on it. And I know there are a lot of states, like in Massachusetts, they kind of give people a really hard time here, even though the Federal Register notice says that you don't need a new work card and that you can just use that as proof of your authorization to be here. Our DMV will scan the work card so they can make sure that you do have legal authorization. So they're not going to accept it, unfortunately, if it has a January 4th date on it. So if you do think that you're going to need it to renew your driver's license, then I would recommend that you do get a new card. And you can apply for a fee waiver for it, or you can just pay the $495. What are the requirements for those states that you listed that you could adjust your status with TPS? So there are some states in this country where if you have TPS, even if you came to the country undocumented, the fact that you have TPS alone is enough to adjust your status. I don't have the list on the top of my head right now. I know the circuits, but that doesn't really help you if you don't know the states. But if you live in one of those states, I think like Tennessee is one, for example, then as long as you are admissible for other things, then you're fine. So for example, if you came here undocumented and you have TPS and you live in one of those states and you're applying for a green card through your US citizen spouse or parent or child who's over 21 years old, then as long as you don't have any other grounds of inadmissibility, such as you're not a public charge, you're not, you don't have any aggravated felonies, you don't have any like medical conditions that would make you inadmissible, then you would just be applying for a green card the normal way. Let's see. What center should I use to see the processing time for Boston if National Benefit Center is not in the list on USCIS's website? So I use Boston, and the processing times are they're kind of really iffy because they're never really accurate for both. Like, even if they say like it'll take 6 months to do something, I never believe it. I always say like a year. Even if it says like a year and a half, it doesn't really mean that. It's just really iffy. Like, for example, I filed a green card application for a client in August, and we already have the interview coming up in like 2 weeks. Whereas the processing times for Boston, last time I checked, say a year and a half, but like 4 months later, we already have our interview. So things are really iffy. And then I've also had the opposite where something says, like 6 months and then it takes a year. So I wouldn't really go by the processing times. See, at the interview for citizenship, do you take the exam at this time? So yes, so when you go to your citizenship interview, so what ends up happening is you check in, they give you a number to look out for, although sometimes the officer will just call your name. And then when you get to the officer's office, they swear you in under oath, and then they go through the application with you to see if there's any like changes you want to make. Did you move? Do you need to change your address? Things like that. And then they go into the questions. So if you applied before December 1st, what will happen is they will ask you like 6 questions in a row. And if you answer all those questions, then you're good to go. And then they'll just give you, they'll have you write something in English. It's usually something really simple. It's usually, at least the interviews that I've gone on with my clients, it's usually something like, I can read and write English, or I can read. It really just depends. They don't really ask you. It's not like you're writing like a whole paragraph in English or anything like that. But they do the civics portion and the writing portion at the same time. For people that are applying after December 1st, not really sure exactly how it will look because I haven't had to go to anything yet, but they're going to ask you 20 questions that you have to get 12 in a row. And then if you do, then you pass that portion, and then they're going to have you write something. I randomly found you on YouTube. You're incredible. Thank you for being so willing to share your knowledge and experience. Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for watching. When applying for a new work permit card, do you need to pay the biometric fee? Yes. Although there are some categories where you don't. So it just depends on why you're applying for the work card. At interview for citizenship, I need a little more information. Do you have any recommendations for lawyers in Virginia? I'm 25 years old, been here since I was 4, under TPS for El Salvador, never had, it got cut off. So I don't know any immigration lawyers in Virginia, but immigration law is federal, so it really doesn't matter where your lawyer is, especially now with COVID. A lot of us aren't meeting people in person anyway. So it really doesn't matter where your immigration lawyer is. Just go with an immigration lawyer that you like, that you feel like you can trust. It really doesn't matter where they are, because immigration law is federal, so we can practice wherever. I personally have clients like all over the world. If you're trying to live in the United States, as long as it's an immigration case, then I can help you. I have clients in Florida, New York, Colorado, like everywhere. So if you can't find any immigration lawyers in Virginia, just try to find one that you like wherever they live, and they can help you. Let's see. And while I'm waiting for more questions, and definitely anything that you have, any questions you have, immigration or otherwise, definitely let me know. I'm always open to answer whatever questions you guys have. And let me just make sure I covered all the ones that I got in my DMs. I answered TPS to DACA. Can't do that. You don't have to pay for re-registration if you don't need to. Trying to think of what other questions you guys have. So just to recap again, TPS for Haiti, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Sudan, and Honduras was extended to October 4th, 2021. And again, this is a tentative date in the sense that we have a lawsuit that's still ongoing. Back in September, the court in California in the Ramos case said that Trump can end TPS for these countries. And the losing side had until November 30th to file a motion for rehearing, which is kind of like an appeal. And they did that on that date. And so because this case isn't over yet, that's why the government had to extend TPS until October 4th. But the government can, respond to this motion for rehearing sooner, and that could possibly change the date. There's a chance that this case could be ongoing past October. And if that happens, then TPS would continue. So as long as there's litigation happening, then TPS will still continue. Your work cards will still continue. And then Haiti is also kind of in a separate category because we've got two other cases that are protecting TPS for Haiti. We've got the Saget case out of New York that's protecting TPS for Haiti. So as long as that case is still pending, then TPS for Haiti will continue. And then there's also, I think it's the Centro Presente case, which I think is out of Massachusetts. I can't remember. And that's protecting TPS for Haiti, Honduras, and another country who I can't remember. I think it's Nepal. So as long as those cases are still pending, then these countries will still have TPS. And no matter when these cases end, TPS for these countries will continue on for at least another 120 days. So I think Haiti, Honduras, Nepal, and Sudan, their TPS would extend for an additional 120 days. So let's say, for example, on October 4th, 2021, these cases are decided. TPS for Haiti and TPS for Haiti, Sudan, Honduras, and Nepal would continue on for an additional 120 days. And then El Salvador would continue on for an additional 365 days. And that's because the United States and El Salvador have their own arrangement that they did together. What is the name of the inadmissible form to interview at the consulate? So do you mean the waiver? So it depends. There are two different forms that you would do for a waiver. One of them is form I-601, and that is for if you have an inadmissibility due to like fraud or misrepresentation, drugs, like different things. The 601A waiver that's form I-601A, and that is only if the only ground of inadmissibility that you have is unlawful presence. So meaning that you either came to the United States undocumented, or you came with a visa, but then you overstayed and you were here for longer than 6 months or a year. What else you guys got? I'm glad my question sticker is working though, because it wasn't last time. Any questions at all? I'm here for at least another 30 minutes. So any questions that you guys have about immigration, TPS, DACA, if there's anything that I said that I wasn't clear about, definitely ask me for clarification. I can talk about this stuff all day, and sometimes I rattle on and sometimes forget that not everybody knows or understands everything I'm talking about like I am. So if there's anything that I said that you are confused about, definitely let me know. Hey, Larita. Hey, Alex. I think I explained everything about TPS, I hope. And DACA, I think I did a pretty good job of DACA as well. But again, if there's anything that I left out or that I said that confused you guys, let me know. When you submit a case, is it normal for them to send it to the other service centers? Yeah, so do you mean like if it gets transferred? If so, yes, that's very common. So for example, for green card cases, like if it's a marriage-based green card case, it usually goes to the Chicago lockbox, and then it gets kind of triaged that way. And oftentimes your case might get transferred and you'll receive a transfer notice in the mail. And there's nothing really to be alarmed by. It just means that they're just sending it to another office that maybe has a better capacity to handle the case, so that it's not just like sitting there and nothing's happening. So it is very common for them to kind of move around. Let's see. Make sure I didn't miss anybody else's questions. And the service centers have been kind of wonky too, mostly because of COVID. Like earlier on this year, a lot of it was COVID related. A lot of it was like public charge related because the form was new this year. Now I feel like it's just like wasting time and mismanagement and things. What is your hope for the future for TPS and DACA recipients? So my hope, I guess, is that I would hope that President Biden is able to create some sort of pathway for people that have TPS and DACA. That's one of the things that he wants to do. It's one of the things that he wants to do in his first 100 days. I'm a little bit of a cynic. I don't think it'll happen in the first 100 days. COVID is still like top priority for this administration, as it should be. So I don't know if he'll be able to prioritize COVID as well as immigration reform. I really hope that he is able to do so. And then it also depends on what happens with the runoff election in Georgia in about a month. If we don't get the Senate, it'll be like another Obama situation where Obama had all of these plans that he wanted to do for immigrants, but the Senate, would not allow him to do so. So I'm really hoping that Biden gets the support that he needs so that we can see some change. Our country relies too much on people that have TPS and DACA. And when I say too much, I don't mean it as a negative. I mean it as a positive, that we have so many people in this country. We have so many children, so many people in general who are in this country, no fault of their own. When children are little, they're not necessarily saying like, hey, mommy, do I have legal authorization to be here? They don't know what, they're put in a situation that's really beyond their control. And I don't think it's fair to punish them for that. And even if you look at people that are helping, in COVID, people on the front lines, they're people that have TPS and DACA. When we think about people that are caring for our most vulnerable, whether that's, in the medical industry or long-term care and things like that, it's immigrants that are doing this work. Americans aren't doing this work. So we can't just discard. I think for TPS, we have 360 some odd thousand people in this country with TPS. And then DACA, we've got almost 800,000 people. And that's just people that have DACA. That's not even counting the fact that if you've never had DACA before, you can apply now. So we can't just discard all these immigrants because, we don't want them here. So I'm really hopeful that the Biden administration will be able to create some sort of pathway to citizenship for these people who really, really deserve to stay here. This is their home. This is their country. They pay taxes here. Most of them pay more taxes than the person that's currently running this country. We can't just kick them out. It wouldn't be fair. And not even that, our country could not handle it. Our economy would literally collapse if we got rid of everybody that has TPS and DACA. So it's like, these immigrants are here to stay, deal with it, and do right by them. So I'm hopeful that something good will happen. And also, over the years, a lot of Americans have come around to wanting to see some type of legal status for people with DACA and TPS. So I'm hopeful that we're going to turn in the right direction and stay there. Would my uncle, dad, he adopted me, would he be able to petition for me if I did make a move to one of those states, even though I'm 25? So when you're trying to get a green card, I'll phrase it differently. If you're a United States citizen, then you can petition for your spouse, parent, children, or siblings to get a green card. If the person is your spouse, parent, or unmarried child under 21 years of age, then they can get their green card here. Anybody else has to get their green card overseas. So if you are married and under 21, or if you're single and over 21, or if you are a sibling, like a brother or a sister of a U.S. citizen, then you can't get your green card here. You're going to have to go overseas. And if you have a green card, the only people that you can petition for are your spouse or your children if they're not married. So your uncle, unfortunately, would not be able to petition for you to get a green card, even if you move to one of those states. You're welcome. Can we book a consultation if we have any immigration questions? Definitely. So you can hit the link in my bio, and I have that. I have a link to book a consultation. And also, if anybody has any questions about green card applications or just the process of getting a green card, who can apply, how do you do it, I have a free guide in my bio. If you just hit the link in my bio and scroll a little bit, there's a free green card guide that I have. So if your question is anything green card related, before you book a consultation, just hit the free guide. That way you're not like paying for a consultation for something that you can get an answer to for free. For consular processing cases, should we send NVC documents, i.e. affidavit of support, to the NVC, or should docs be sent electronically via SEAC? So it goes to SEAC, which is still the NVC. So wait until you get that letter, and then when they send you your case documentation, they create the case, they give you your case number, then you can start that process, but it goes through SEAC. It used to depend on your country, where certain countries had to file online and then other countries had to send it to the National Visa Center in New Hampshire. But I think now, in their quest for trying to be more efficient, they're asking everybody to send it through SEAC, which the system is kind of finicky. Even yesterday, I was doing a DS-260 with a client, and it kept kicking me out like every 5 seconds. It ended up taking me like an hour to do it. It was so annoying, but definitely work with the system. How much would it cost to talk to you? So my consultation fee is $150, and that's for a half hour. And I go through your whole immigration file, try to figure out what your fastest path to a green card is. That's pretty much what I try to do. Because yeah, you can figure out a path, but I try to figure out what the fastest path is for you. I help you figure out what your strategy should be and what types of things that you'll need to prove your case. Let's see, what other questions do you guys have? Make sure I answered the rest of your questions. And I don't see any in the question sticker. But like I say, I'm a really open book. I'm very big on just sharing information. I have and I also say a lot. Like rewatching these videos, I'm like, I say like every other second, which is annoying, but it is what it is. But I just like to share information. I'm really big on when I know, teach. And that's one of the reasons why I started my law firm. I've been heavy on social media from day one with my law firm. A lot of my clients weren't even in the US, so I was able to still reach them through social media. And also very early on in my career, I represented a lot of victims of domestic violence who don't necessarily have access to legal services for a variety of reasons. And I found that by sharing information on social media through my Instagram, I was able to still share information so that victims and survivors of domestic violence would know what their rights were, but they wouldn't necessarily have like a digital fingerprint to show that they were getting information on how to get out of their situation. So I've always been really big on social media. And lately I've been having a lot of fun with TikTok and Reels because I'm very big on like hip hop. I love rap music, and I can't always infuse that into my work, but doing Reels and TikToks enable me to do that. So I've been really having a lot of fun with that. Would I have to live in Haiti until my green card got approved? It depends. So it depends on your situation. Like who's getting the green card for you? Are you married to a U.S. citizen? Are you getting a green card through a green card holder? And also, where are you? Like, are you currently in the United States? It's not to sound like a lawyer, but it depends, because like I mentioned, if you are married to a U.S. citizen and you're in the United States, then you can adjust your status, which means that you can get a green card here, provided that you did come to the United States lawfully. So if you came to the U.S., with a visa, or you were paroled in, maybe you got humanitarian parole or something, then you can get your green card here. But if you came to the country undocumented and never got a legal status after that, let's say you never got temporary protected status, you never traveled on advanced parole, It's just, you came here undocumented and you married somebody. You can't get a green card here. You're going to have to go back to your home country. And before you do that, you need to make sure that you're not subject to any ground of inadmissibility that would keep you stuck out of the US for 10 years. So it depends, but typically, yeah, you kind of have to just stay in your home country. Like if you're a sibling, I see all the time where US citizens I see two problems with US citizens petitioning for siblings. The first problem is they never want to start the process because right now it's a 14-year wait for certain countries. There are some countries where they're like in 1998. I think Mexico is like 1998 for that category. But for the most part, most countries right now, if a US citizen is petitioning for their brother or sister, it's a 14-year wait. So I see oftentimes US citizens that are like, I don't want to do it because it's going to take 14 years. Like, what's the point? And then the other problem I see is US citizens that do petition for their siblings despite the 14-year wait, but the sibling decides they want to stay here and wait for that green card. And that's going to be a problem because, like I mentioned, if you overstay your visa, if you stay in the country undocumented for longer than 6 months and then you leave, can't come back for 3 years. If you stay undocumented in the country for more than a year and then you leave, you can't come back for 10. And you're going to need a waiver. And you can't get a waiver if you're applying through a sibling. I entered the US, but months after I turned 16. Can I still apply for DACA? Also grad school here. So when did you come here? Thank you. Thanks for coming on. Hope the kids go to sleep okay. That boy, Rolf, you entered the U.S. lawfully, but months after you turned 16. So what year was that? Because in order to get DACA, you had to have come here not only before you turned 16, but also before 2007. Like you've had to have been here at least since 2007. So that's another it depends question. You came in 2017. So yeah, if you came in 2017, you wouldn't be able to apply for DACA. So in order to apply for DACA, you have to have been here before 2007, before you turn 16. You have to at least be 15 years old now. Can't be I think if you're under 15, you can apply for DACA if you're in removal proceedings, so like if you're in deportation. And you can't have had a status on June 15th, 2012. So if you came here in 2017, unfortunately, you can't apply for DACA. But if you came here in 2007, then yeah. Let's see, what other questions do you guys have? Also, let me make sure I told you guys everything that I wanted to share work-wise. I think I did. I can't think of anything new that's coming up in immigration. Like I said, I know that lawyers are trying to do a couple different things. So I don't know if I have any Liberians on the live or anyone who's married to a Liberian, but if you're trying to apply for a green card through the Liberian Refugee Immigration Fairness Program, then I think to be on the safe side, the last day for you to apply for that green card would be next Wednesday, which is December 16th. And I say that because the deadline is December 20th. And normally USCIS will say that your application has to be postmarked by the deadline date, but for the Liberian program, it actually has to be received by that time. And as we know, the post office over the past couple months has been a little bit wonky, and it's also holiday season. So people are, the mail is just a little bit extra busy. So to be on the safe side, I would think that you should apply for your green card no later than next Wednesday. Send it priority mail or overnight just to be on the safe side, just to make sure that you don't miss that deadline, because this is it's pretty much like a slam dunk green card application through this program. So if you're able to apply, I definitely do so by next Wednesday. A lot of lawyers are trying to work with the the Biden administration to see if they can extend that, because there are still so many Liberians that don't even know about this program. And the Liberian work card currently, I think it ends in January 11th coming up. So I'm really hoping that they get an extension so that more Liberians and their family members can apply. TPS Haiti regarding re-registration. So I think, let's see, Faithful Blue, is your question about re-registering. So if it is, so basically TPS for Haiti has been automatically extended until October 4th, 2021. And you don't have to do anything. You don't have to re-register. You don't need to pay for a new work card unless you want a new work card with the new date on it. Your job, if you need that paperwork for work to show that you still have authorization, and this applies for all of the countries, not just Haiti, but if you need to show your employer that TPS was extended, then just print off a copy of the Federal Register notice, which you can do. I have a video on TPS updates that I posted last week. I have the Federal Register in that. You can click that, or you can just go on uscis.gov and do it as well. And you can just show your employer that. So you don't need to re-register for TPS unless you did not properly re-register the last time you were supposed to. So before Trump ended TPS for Haiti, you're supposed to re-register every like 18 months or so. As long as you did that the last time they had that, which I think was either March 2017 or March 2018, I think. As long as you did that, then you don't need to do anything. But if you want a new work card, you can apply for it. You just got to pay the fees or apply for a fee waiver. Thank you, Arias. I hope I pronounced that right. How long is a temporary green card issued for? Which one? Are you talking about the conditional green card? If it is, then a conditional green card is good for 2 years. And then, so the conditional green card is given if you are married to someone for less than 2 years at the time that they approve your application for a green card. And then 90 days before that green card expires, you file the I-751 to remove the conditions, and then it's basically like it's like the same thing all over again, proving that your marriage is valid, that you're still together, all that good stuff, and then you get a 10-year green card. Can you use credit card to pay for any of these? For any of what? Can you use a green card? Can you use a credit card to pay for what? Like your immigration applications? If so, yes. So if you're in the United States and you're applying for a green card or really any immigration benefit from the US, you can pay with a credit card. You just have to make sure that you download the credit authorization form. I think it's like 1645 or something. I can't remember, but if you go to uscis.gov and you search for credit card authorization, as long as you print that form out, write your credit card number on it, write the specific filing fee on it, that's very important, then you can pay with your credit card. But keep in mind that USCIS is only going to run your credit card once. So if it declines, they're going to reject your application. And then similarly, for the National Visa Center, you can't. They make you put in your bank, like your routing information. Hey, Lauren. What other questions do you guys have? I know I can ramble on a lot, so just making sure that I answer all your questions, that everything is clear, that I'm not just rambling, because like I said, I love this stuff. I've been doing this work for like 10 years. I can ramble on and on and on. Like, ask my husband, like I'm always talking his ear off about this stuff. So if you have any questions about anything, definitely let me know. I'm here to answer them. Let's see. Why was TPS given only for 9 months? Was it due to the pending lawsuits? So, I can't really answer that. I'm not really sure why it was only 9 months. That's kind of, I don't want to say it's arbitrary, but kind of is. Like, it could have been 2 months, could have been 3 months. I don't really know why they picked 9. Maybe that's just their prediction. Maybe they're predicting that in 9 months it'll be over. But as long as these lawsuits are pending, then like you'll still have TPS, your work card will still be valid. So I don't really have a rhyme or reason as to why it was 9 months, but it also depends because this is based on the litigation. So if the litigation ended, let's say in March, they could just be like, okay, well, we're going to change it. You're not going to have work authorization till October anymore. You're going to have it till March. I don't think they do that. I really don't think the Biden administration would do that. Trump probably, but I don't think Biden would. So I don't really know why it was just 9 months. But as long as the lawsuits are pending, you'll still have TPS and your work authorization. Let's see. Make sure I got all your questions. What else you guys got? Also, where are you guys joining me from? Because as you know, I'm in Boston, where it's disrespectfully cold right now. But where are you guys from? Because I'm always curious where people that follow me or join me are coming from. As I mentioned, I'm originally from Texas. Oh, cool, you're in Boston, so you share in my hatred for this disrespectful cold. I think, at least maybe. Like my brother loves the cold, me not so much. I don't do the cold. Oh, Providence, cool. So we're kind of neighbors. You're in Providence. I'm not too far from Providence. So that's cool. All right, what other questions do you guys have? I think I have about 7 or 8 more minutes before IG kicks me off. Indiana, cool. Never been to Indiana. I think the furthest west I've been is Vegas. So yeah. I cannot wait until the world reopens though, because I need to be in the Caribbean. Like I need to be not here. Like I don't do cold well at all. Like not at all. I hate it. But I also can't like go back and live in Texas either because reasons. So let's see. I think I told you guys everything I wanted to tell you. For the benefit of those who joined a little bit late, TPS for Haiti, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Sudan, Nepal, and Honduras is extended till October 9th, 2021. October 4th, 2021. But that also depends on the lawsuits. If the lawsuits go longer, then they'll have TPS longer. If the lawsuits end sooner, then their TPS will continue for about 120 more days. After that, El Salvador's TPS will continue on for an additional 365 days. If you have TPS, you cannot switch over to DACA. I got that question a lot this week. And you also, if you have TPS, you have more protections than if you have DACA, because TPS is part of our immigration law, whereas DACA is not. It's just an executive order. But if you currently have TPS or you had any type of legal status as of June 15th, 2012, you cannot apply for DACA. If you already applied for DACA and let's say you renewed your DACA over the summer and you got a 1-year work card, you're gonna automatically get a 2-year work card. You can still apply for advanced parole. If you have temporary protected status and you're applying for advanced parole, you can still travel on advanced parole, but you're not going to be able to use that as lawful entry if you're traveling on advanced parole for the first time after August 20th of 2020. If you have DACA and you're traveling on advanced parole, it doesn't apply to you. Something tells me this administration will probably try to make that apply to people with DACA now that the court has forced the government to accept new DACA. And that's also why I tell people all the time, if you can apply for something today, do it. I know a lot of people that are waiting to see what Biden will do. They're waiting until Biden is sworn in because that's when they want to work on their immigration cases. And that's not really smart. It's very risky because unfortunately, Trump is still our president for another 40 some odd days. And he can do so much damage between now and then. He can do things that will prevent Biden from really making real change in immigration. He can do things that Biden won't just be able to get rid of with an executive order. I think the administration is still trying to see if they can get Chad Wolf confirmed. And if so, they can ratify his July memo, which basically tried to get rid of DACA. And they can also raise the filing fees. So I always tell people, if there's something you can do about your status today, definitely do it, because immigration is constantly changing. It's literally like I can wake up and the law is one thing and by noon it's something different, and that's actually happened to me before. So if you have a way to apply for something, definitely do it now. Don't just wait for Biden. I'm very hopeful that he'll do something positive to help people, in your situation, but it's better to have something concrete now, and then if Biden does do something, that's better. Like, for example, if Biden does something that enables you to get a green card without having to leave, then do that at that time, but know that you have something else as a backup. Don't just put all your eggs in the Biden basket. Tips for starting your private practice during the pandemic. Is it a law firm? So if so for me, I'm one of those people, probably think I'm crazy. I love chaos. I thrive on chaos. I'm just weird like that. I work very well under pressure and chaos. So the past 4 years has been pretty okay for me, despite how hectic it's been. And I started my law firm during a chaotic period of time. I started my law firm because I wanted to work in an immigration law firm just to kind of learn the ropes, learn how much people charge for this stuff. No one wanted to hire me. So I was like, okay, well, screw it. I'll hire myself. So I hired, and that was during the recession when the economy was horrible. That's when I started my law firm. I couldn't afford office space, so I met people wherever they were, and I framed it as, I meet you where you are. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I don't have an office because I'm too poor for an office. It was, I meet you where you are. It's all about framing and whatever. And to this day, like, I still meet people where they are. I have an office, never meet people there because, for one, COVID, and secondly, people are just cool with like talking on the phone and through Zoom and whatnot. So even though I have an office now, I rarely use it. But starting an office during a pandemic, just do it. I mean, people are still making money. My law firm has grown so much during a pandemic. Like, early on, when a lot of law firms were closing and freaking out because they couldn't meet with people, I was meeting with more people than I've ever met in my life, because people know that I'm on YouTube and they see me on Instagram and they see me everywhere, so they know that I'm still here. And also let people know that you're there to help them. I send out newsletters every week to tell people what's going on in immigration. I let people know that I'm here to help them. I share valuable information. Now I'm like acting a fool on TikTok and Reels now, and I'm just trying to open up more and showing people that, yeah, I'm an attorney, I'm an immigration attorney, I know my shit, but I'm also a person, and I'm also kind of quirky and nerdy and weird and whatnot. So just like figure out what you want to do, be yourself, and just be really, really good at it. And if you have any other questions, definitely reach out. I'm always willing to like talk to people about starting and things to do as well. And I might have like 1 more minute left. I will be saving this live. Last question: how would I go about adjusting the status if I could now? I'm from Nepal, originally in Oklahoma. I've tried it through my work immigration, but not eligible yet due to my current position. I would need more information about that. That's kind of a loaded question that I don't think I can answer in the 1 minute that I have left. But if you want to hit me up, you can send me an email. My email is just hello@Brazen Legal. Just shoot me an email and maybe we can talk about it offline. But I think I have 1 or 2 minutes left to go. Again, I'm Bianca Jordan. I'm an immigration lawyer at Brazen Legal. I love this stuff. If you guys have any questions, if there's anything you want me to do videos about, slide in my DMs, let me know. And I'm definitely just here to help and talk to you guys about immigration stuff. So I will see you guys again. I'm going to try to do these live every Wednesday. And I guess I'll talk to you guys then. Thank you guys so much for joining.